magical,
Do you ever do
the
ping
magic
pong?
act that he did. When it was definitely Steve Martin's sense of humor when he was like da 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 da.
Yeah. We did
Da,
that.
da,
I did very
da,
close
da,
paragraph.
da.
That was our thing for
Okay, I don't
holidays.
remember. All I know is I went to
Sleep
my
in
high
those,
school
and it's
reunion,
every
and one of my
Christmas
friends,
picture of my
was a
sister and
little
I,
lady
it's
who
like
used to do
boing,
studies.
it was like Shirley Temple
And we
in
never
our
studied. My
Christmas
mom would
pajamas.
used to sing Indian balls, and he would always do Steve Martin impressions the whole time. I was like, shut up, Richard, stop doing that, Richard. And he was just like, but why? We're just a couple of wild and crazy guys. It was like two guys, and me and my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's my
And I was
favorite.
like, stop it.
It's all the rage
They
for
couldn't
some.
stop it. It was like that was a title or something. There's
So when he was in with Michael Caine, was it Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that.
What was it? Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine.
And Parenthood. I always liked his movies better than his stand-up, or his, yeah,
mom
like
keeps
his
finding
film,
those too
like
hot.
Robin Williams. I always like preferred his
Yeah,
films.
and I'm like,
to
okay,
his-
well, it's about 59 degrees.
And Steve Martin's there.
Oh, he's this talking about he was kind of Scottish.
Probably about 12 miles from each other.
Yeah. Like because you lose a bit of
It
your
seems
life
far
every
though
time you
when
swing
you're
at the
there.
dam.
Like when you're in Portland and you
They're
go
like,
out to
wait,
the
so we're
suburbs,
gonna just
it's
like
like it
get
takes
this
forever.
over there?
But I clocked it one time when I would do the drive from
away.
Seattle down to
Oh, we get to throw it, right?
Nebraska
No, you
to
gotta
see my
mess
parents.
up looking stick to
Yeah, when I would
swing
get to
it.
Portland, you know, I was just like, oh my god, I've been in the car for 3 hours coming in. So I realized, oh, it's only 12
But you know,
miles from
Steve
downtown
Martin
to
did,
mom and dad's house. Why? Because I've been thinking that it's like a drive home.
Half I saw recently.
Probably because I wasn't allowed to go down there.
Burger
Yeah.
King.
I don't know if you remember that movie at all.
It's called A Big Year. And it's almost Jack Black, Steve
Oh, that's right.
Burgers.
Very good combination.
It wasn't a comedy movie. It was like just
I hope
it was
there's nothing
lighthearted, but it wasn't like funny. It was actually like them birding, and it was
Yeah, you can
very
replace
who could see the most birds in the year. Because I have just befriended someone who's from really high up in the
We're moving up. We're moving up.
We're moving closer. We're trying to coalesce the spirits of community.
Well, you all know how it is with the lecture series. Well, people will show up half an hour in, and you're like, why at this point in time did you bother to come?
Well, that's why we're not leaving this time.
Well, that was, yeah, maybe everybody's exhausted from being angry about trees.
Yeah, that was a long session.
What did they talk about? I
Was,
live in town, so I don't go to these.
It was the urban forest management plan, round one, the introduction to the public.
It
And
was sort of,
We took some cheer the people that
yes, put a survey out.
You say, yeah. Yeah.
What?
It didn't really come out the way to tell people.
I mean, again, it's a testament to what a great job we do. No, we can't not have board members on that.
But, well, it's still community members, they're not.
It's still
they're not
community
saying-
members, but it's not the point. The point is to,
I know, but they probably have, I'm sure,
Cal Fire people.
opinions about the library that they don't talk about in their board meetings and such.
yeah, potentially, but also, we still need another do-over.
Ah, here comes.
So we get it.
No,
Alright, good.
I hear people.
Hi, welcome, join us.
Welcome.
Yay.
Wait for some more participants, and then we'll get rolling.
I got one.
Good job. And you can sit, I mean, you can sit anywhere.
She's a big library user.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Probably from the market.
My neighbor.
You should have advertised cookies with me.
The only way to truly get people to show up, especially at this time of the evening, is when you have And that means I would have had to have gone to city council to ask for permission to serve alcohol in council
Come to
chambers.
the wine, come to the wine workshop.
Come to-
We don't need wine.
Is there a precedent for that? Has anyone ever done that?
Yeah.
Done a workshop
We
with
spelled it
wine?
right.
Had or just certified, is that, I'm just curious now
So, yes, wine in a form was probably served at one point, in the old days. But
Hi,
We
come
have
on in.
Come on in, hi.
Alyssa's coming and she just dropped her kids off. Alyssa.
Yeah, great, so you walk the
Hello?
my office at the library all the time.
Okay, yes, they do.
Yeah, please, why not? We'll get started. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm Ashley, by the way.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. I've never been to all the people that.
So what's happening?
That's my first time.
Your first time out the way back?
City Hall?
Yeah, well, I think that's what's really changed.
What do you think?
Love it.
Both on separate groups.
For the magic happens.
I'm not sure, it's very nice.
It's very
Yeah,
Carmel.
with the farm, it was convenient for me because I sat back, there was enough chairs, so I was some
Absolutely.
chair, and I stood at the back. And it just, I got the back door, and I was there.
Ashley,
Alex.
do you have a new ride that I don't know about?
A new ride? I don't think so.
Oh, I saw you came into something that wasn't quite not.
I had two more people.
It wasn't, I have a rent car now. I know.
How about I just list there on that exchange?
My lease was up and
What year?
I don't know, it's what my father picked out. It's the one area of life where I abdicate responsibility.
I know, your dad.
Everything else is dad, it's the one thing.
I know, I just like when I finish some bread roll. I like this.
Whatever they were.
For me, it's.
I know, and this time it's an Altima instead of a Sentra, so it's got some serious, I mean, I can go fast, it's nice. Zoom, zoom.
Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah, you were just figuring that one.
I went to St. Mary's.
Well, I think they're having those in it.
I live over in Monterey. Right near, the border of Seaside. So I'm on Casanova by the Portuguese Observatory.
Oh, wow.
The fairgrounds and that neighborhood.
Oh,
It's nice.
Yeah, that's not too far from where town I used to be.
Yeah.
The Church of Friendship, the one at Flores and Broadway.
Yes, so you've been there.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
bunch of
like-
library stuff that lives down, but half the library stuff is in Susanna. So we're all, it's nice if you have to get your car serviced, because it's like, hey, could you just pick me up from the dealership where you guys go to work together, then you can drive me home. In fact, I need to get my car serviced, I need to ask somebody.
So actually, I don't need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another person coming, we know, Alyssa's coming, she just dropped off her.
Her kids, I saw her and Anthony at their
Yeah.
stay arrangement, so give them 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
You know, the Warriors can take you back.
Hearing aids?
No, I'm
not the border, they just asked where at the moment.
He's gonna go travel.
Do you live here in town?
Just his girlfriend's family over there, and then go to Boston, and then come back to And, he's going to be in Arizona for some of the summer, wow. It's kind of hot, cold. But he said, but all the kids, my apartment's really nice. I just really, you know, and I have a job. It's really not too far, but we lived in the cost of living.
Oh, we're all in town.
Well, the trees are nice.
But, he's really good, he was, to kind of, his divorce. Like, Mama says, should I alert all of the other drivers about this? His generation, they don't care to, they take Uber and they don't care. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Hello.
Hello, see you. Welcome.
Hello, Bill. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
After I saw you today.
Yeah. I mean, it encourages to be the right, it was the connection to the world, that we all have our own connections to the world. And so,
I'm really excited.
yeah. back up. Oh shit, I get a bike, it's got a little electric motor, I'll get up and down this hill. So I go all the way down, like, let Carmel in, starts driving up, I get the right spot, I start doing the motor, and about halfway out, my front tire just explodes. So that's what I get for trying to pick the healthy option first. I'm brushing my teeth. Oh, yeah, no, I was just brushing my teeth and I look down and it looks like just a dirt path and I guess what's wrong with your dog?
Yeah.
Every time I've ever seen a bobcat, it's always just bobcat fly. It's always running into something else and I just catch it. Never seen one that just kind of floating around, sitting around.
Rodents mostly. Even like we have a cat, let the cat, they see the cat just crunches the leaves to chase it. And you know, don't run.
Yeah, no, I think it's be big, don't turn around and slowly back up. If you trip and fall when you're walking backwards, that's gonna trigger the whatever predation sense too.
Yeah.
But as long as you're kind of staring it down and being calm, then it
Keep it on.
When I used to, go to Vermont,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just see it in the TV.
And then we'll be 45 after.
Try to disappear.
You never know. I had a friend, he was hiking, he was with his family up on top.
All right, let's get started. Why don't you guys move up?
There was the kids were recording. Mother was came in between me.
I never go between the kids.
Yeah, I never between his kids.
I know, it's musical chairs.
We were told we had to move out.
This other friend.
I mean, I instructed
There you go.
Do it.
No, I didn't. Oh, gosh.
All right, Sebastian, we're gonna get rolling. He's downstairs recording. So, hopefully, maybe some here.
We've been waiting.
Yes. Yes, I saw you guys at Third Thursday, so I figured you were. So thank you all very much for being here tonight. We're here kind of for a twofold purpose. One is for strategic planning, so the library is thinking about what do we do into the future. Our strategic plan kind of ran its course during the pandemic. And then we're also looking at building renovations, in particular for the Harrison Library. You know, we had a report done about, you know, kind of what's behind the walls, what's gonna need to be done in the future. And so we're just kind of doing long range thinking. And what's important about that is to understand what we're looking for, what we're thinking about in terms of the future of the library itself, both buildings. So what are our services? What's happening in the buildings? What should staff be planning for, budgeting for, thinking about into, you know, the next 5 years, the next 50 years, the next 100 years. So we want to know how we can continue to meet community needs, and then of course if we do anything with the buildings, make sure those buildings meet those needs as well, and are spaces that can accommodate what the public expects. Now, thinking 100 years out with library services can be tricky. They're always changing, but it would be very helpful to hear from all of you about that. So that's what this conversation is open mind. I mean, the great thing about libraries is all kinds of ideas come out. I love doing surveys, especially when kids participate, because it's like, put a swimming pool in. Can we have a swing set in the basement? You know, really out of the box thinking. So I'm going to keep an open mind. It's okay to disagree with each other, but not to be disagreeable. So, and I don't think anybody here in this room would do that. So let's get started. We all know that the library has been an important part of our community since 1906. So before the Harrison Library was even built. When we think about the library, what is its place in the community? How does it function as a community space and support our community connections? Thoughts? Anybody?
The way that I experience the library right now is purely through the eyes of my kids mostly. We are at the children's library probably 1 to 3 times a week.
Ditto.
And I think through my kids' eyes and the eyes of the community, it's a safe place for kids to come, whether they're homeschooled and they are not in a typical classroom, or our kids who are in school and they come after their scheduled programming, and they just love being there. The librarians are so welcoming and kind of an extension of our family, and not in a creepy way, but in a way that they're just, yesterday my son Mossy literally walked in and threw a tantrum on the floor, and they just brought him a water and pulled out a toy that they thought he would enjoy, and they kind of left him alone, and they gave me the grace, and they didn't, make a fuss. They just knew what we needed, and I think for that reason, the library, it just provides a really wonderful, safe spot for the children of the community, whether it's early in the morning or after school, and I think that's invaluable.
There was a whole group of kids today, and they were so excited to go into the library.
That was River School 3rd grade. We're there. They were taking a field
Yeah,
trip.
because they were so, I saw them just lined up there, and they were really excited.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal, 3rd grade.
Yes.
Anybody else think, what is the place of the library within our community?
For me, it's really been about education and just being relevant. I mean, I love the mission statement, because every time I participate, either in a lecture or the fundraiser, or, it's just like, where am I? Like, how did these people come together and talk? Like, there was that little fireside chat that I happened to go to with, it was about communication and how we don't have the access to just human beingness and conversations like we used to. And I walked out of there feeling different about every interaction, because it's limited, as the communication professor was talking about.
It's a good place for people to meet people too. I was talking to a couple of people today, because we had a puzzle for sale, and they were talking about how great the puzzle was in the library, that they meet other people that way, and it's fun to work on, and it's a community kind of thing to do too. So that's another for the library, because a lot of us live alone, and it's a good community type building place.
So very much a third space, the alternate living room for everybody.
It's also got a lot of resources. I mean, it's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
place to access resources that you might need or be interested in.
I would echo Alyssa, obviously from the community side. Our children use this space in both branches, but also including the slew of events and the meaningful education and the intellectual aspect, I've been able to use it for research purposes, for practice, but I think people everywhere can use all sorts of historic resources that the library offers. So there's many aspects. Nexus.
It's a place you don't have to, please.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it's a place you don't have to spend money to be at.
Yeah.
It's a truly free and accessible spot where there's not many out there where you can just, it's loitering, it's this, it's that. But you can just go to the library and sit if you really want to, and it's okay.
Yeah, we will not yell at you for staring into space all day.
So I moved here 3 years ago, and I was very active in the library where I came from. And one thing I do appreciate here is that the kids' library
makes-
I used to go there twice a week, because I love libraries, so it was like, well, God, I'm sorry, I came in and disturbed everybody, I was in there not to ask anything. So that's what I find, you know, and I don't know why, maybe it's my personality. Maybe I walk in with that attitude of, okay, let's see what you guys are doing.
But you're right, things did change
Yeah.
during the pandemic, and the layout changed, and so that is disconcerting for people. I mean, I'm one of those people with, you know, when you go to the grocery store, and overnight they move where the cheese was, and you spend 15 minutes trying to figure out your routine is gone, and so I understand that, completely.
I think I would echo that. The vibe's a little cold and self-service, and not, maybe the staff could get a little bit more input on just being friendly and smiling. And I know there's probably lots of tourists that drop in and want to use the bathroom, and that's the hassle, but just to kind of get to know people, and yeah, I think that would be helpful, because I've noticed it softens a lot when there's like a drive, like you had a bucket, like a barrel out for the youth center, and then
Right.
that people were engaged in talking about that. But yeah, maybe the staff, instead of just focusing on their job, could be a little bit more.
That's good feedback, thank you very much, yes. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, one of the things that happens is we're doing double duty, so we're multitasking on the desk, and I slip into that sometimes when I'm covering the desk as well. It's not best practice, so I appreciate the feedback and the observation. Any other thoughts about improvements, anywhere, anything? More programs, different programs, collections?
Well, the thing I hear the most still is about hours.
Mhm.
And,
Saturdays.
not being open on Saturdays,
Saturdays,
it's
yeah.
a huge issue
Yes.
for many people.
So I've got questions for you.
Have you done a survey of the library patrons about what they want, just to?
Yeah, we've had one going for a couple months now, so we've had slow trickle feedback, we keep pushing it out there. It's been in our newsletter, it's been on the website, it's been on the city's website, it's been in the Friday letter, which is the city administrator's newsletter, it's been on social media.
Is that a survey or?
It's a survey, yeah, about library services in general, about, you know, anything we could ask about. We've been collecting feedback, and I think we've only had just about over 100 respondents. We have paper copies when you walk in the library, in both buildings, at all the desks. So if you haven't filled it out already, please fill it out.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it, and I'm in there a lot, so maybe that's another thing the staff could solicit some.
Right.
Or coming in,
Yeah.
who actually use it, yeah.
Or signage, just more effective signage and advertisement and
Yeah,
just
signage is
graphics.
signage is a challenge always in the library. So you've got directional signage, programs, and then it starts to become this wall where nobody sees anything. So we're always trying to balance those things out. But yeah, signage always needs improvement. I don't know one library I've ever walked into where I've been like, they did it, they perfected signage. It's always like, oh, something got tacked on somewhere because we didn't think we need this, and everybody keeps asking where this is. So,
Maybe
but
if the survey were just tucked in the book when I checked it out, I would take it home and fill it in.
oh, that's a great idea.
You know,
Okay, that's wonderful.
by the staff.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
One of the things I think that is really great is the gathering place at the library. I'm not sure how easy it is to reserve it online, or if you have to make a call.
It's either calling or emailing us, either one. So one of the things that we did look at when we opened the gathering place was, you know, there's all kinds of meeting room software. Most of it's geared towards big library systems with, you know, 50 rooms, all different sizes and purposes, and we've just got the one. And so, so far it has worked for us to have phone calls or have people email us, let us know their reservation. We've got a shared staff calendar, so we keep track of it and put a schedule out every day, you know, for who can use it. And then in between, if anybody can use the room in between.
Why did they do that room the way they did?
Where it is.
Well, yeah, partly that, but also they made it glass. It doesn't fit the architecture.
For the light in the building, because it tends to feel siloed, like if you go open fiction, it feels very library, but we've got all kinds of natural light everywhere that have been kind of hidden over the years by putting shelves and covering things up everywhere. So we worked to open that up a little bit, and one of the most frequently asked questions that we had, to the point where we had our Rolodex of frequently asked questions, and I say Rolodex because I've worked here for 17 years. And that was one, is there a free meeting room in town where my book club can meet, or I need to meet somewhere? And
not that big. It's 399 square feet, so that was partly why it was glass and everything, and that you could see right through to the trees, you know, right outside.
Yes, I can't hear.
Oh, sorry.
Really well, I cannot hear, I cannot believe, I can't hear.
Okay.
It's terrible. So what are you saying?
I was just saying that the room itself is relatively small, so to make it feel more spacious for, like, you know, if we were to have more meetings, more people in the room, that's part of the reason why the glass was there. And then to be able to see the trees and bring the light in, so if you look right straight out, you can see beautiful nature coming in. But it's, yeah.
Now I know.
So, I'd just like to ask a couple of series of quick questions here.
Please,
So,
yes.
the one is you're using the library, you've talked about how it's, like to have it the way it was, enjoy the children's section as it goes. We need to work on making sure it's a more warm and welcoming place. If we were looking to make improvements to the library, do you think that we would be looking for more open space or more book selection? If you had a choice of, do you think that you want to have places to sit around, or do you want to have more shelves of books? How would you feel about that going forward? Or is it about right like it is now? And this is the main library and the children's library, you know, you can pick either one. And if you don't have an opinion, that's fine. Go ahead.
When I enjoy the Harrison on my own, which isn't very often, so when I do, I appreciate that there are areas to sit and be. I don't take many physical books out right now because I listen to everything on audio while I fold laundry. But there might be a time when I want more books, but as an infrequent visitor, I think that the balance is nice. As a frequent user of the children's library, I think it has a nice balance as well. Open space for events and crafts, allowing kids to rumble if they need to. I think that there's a good balance. So, and I also appreciate that the children's library and the adult library are separate because I don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
So I think you should keep it.
Any comment or?
Oh, no, I agree. I think it's a really good mix. I only browse in the new stuff that the librarians put out in the little lobby, or
Right.
occasionally browse the shelves, but usually you can request a book and they'll have it, boom, right there. So I don't know if you all store the books somewhere that are not out on the shelves or something. for
Everything we
retrieval.
have is in that building, unless
Okay,
it's at
yeah,
home
so-
with somebody.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be a problem at all. And yeah, and having the open space and the, you know, flexible space is quite good. I think the balance right now is really good.
As we progress and society goes on, we have more and more electronics and things like that, is that I think we should have more computers or computer-based things in section in there, more interactive,
No.
or quite, you know, like it is now.
I don't know about anybody else, but I go to the library to get away from screen time, right? And interact more with people and their products, so yeah.
I get comments at the market about how wonderful it is not to have all that electronic stuff. And we were at the new library of Alexandria in Egypt a while ago, and it's almost, there are very few books, it's almost all electronics. And it didn't feel
library before the pandemic, that was what we were hearing. We had iPads that were stationed in the lobby, with games on them, and we heard, and we have computers in there as well, and that was the biggest thing we heard from parents was take out the computers. And so when you go in that building, there's no screens when you go in. Because that was just on a weekly, please take out the screens. It's, yeah, it disappeared during the pandemic.
Right, that was the pulse that I think we've been able to take in the community, is that everyone's remains very grateful that it is effectively like a Luddite children's library.
It is a Luddite
Like it
children's
that
library.
way.
You can play with the wooden
Yeah.
train and look at the books, but
Yeah.
beyond that, you're a kid coming into the
Yeah.
building.
And even your search, you know, when somebody wants to search a book or something, you have the two stations. And for people who can't see very well or something, your staff's been really good about helping them or recommending, so I think that's been working out okay.
Yeah, yeah, our plan for the Harrison is to get more catalog stations with big screens, that are kind of slim in nature. So that will be coming, but low profile, not big computers stationed everywhere.
I think the warmth of the library will be tied to the lack of screens. I mean, the forced human interaction, if you will, to discover something with the librarian's help, as opposed to trying to go out and search and figure out the right questions yourself. Like, just a little bit of serendipity for just randomly stumbling on something will happen in that environment.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes libraries will do staff picks, so I know you have the new stuff, but
Yeah.
for recommendations or.
We've had that on our list of things to think about. And we've done, I think we've done one of the staff picks displays, at the Carmel.
And it being a historic building, I get, again, people at the market who are really interested in seeing the building, the art collection and so forth, not so much the library,
The art.
although, but the art collection and the building itself. They wanna know where the main library is and is it historic and so forth.
Last question I have is do we have the right mix in the footprint for the fiction and the footprint for the nonfiction, and there's magazine and others? Are those about right, or are people not able to find what they want, or no opinion?
What was the question?
Are the sizes of our collection, so it's the size of the fiction section, the size of the nonfiction section, our magazine collection, we talk about improving or changing the library, your favorite word.
Yeah, right. It's okay.
Okay.
I only bitch in the first 3 weeks.
Okay. So what challenges, do you all see or think about when we talk about improving or changing the library? When we move things around, when we try new things out, what are the challenges? For all of you, for, what we should be thinking about when we make changes?
Space of the collection, and how much space do we want for people to gather, like the main room with the fireplace, and how much do we want on the shelves for, as far as books go? That's one of the challenges.
Yeah,
And
maintaining
we've got
that
a
balance.
limited space there too.
Yeah,
That's why we bought the second building.
yeah. Space is always a challenge for libraries. I mean, who doesn't want more books? Everybody does. But yeah, maintaining that balance between seating space, study space, and our collection space, and places to do programs as well. So making sure that the space that we do have can be multi-purpose and flexible. It is a challenge. I can tell you as librarians, the number of times I put painter's tape on the floor to see if this would work and open this up is numerous.
Probably access is one of the challenges too, access to all the different levels.
Yes, there's 5 different levels.
5 levels?
5 levels in the building.
And you're watching in an elevator, is that correct?
I mean, that's an idea that we've talked about for many years. We've had different people come through and go, oh, you should put an elevator in. It's like, put it here or put it there. That would be great. Having the stairs be the only access points are not so great for people with disabilities. That means they can't get down to the bathrooms. That means they're restricted to either the reading room and the nonfiction collection only if they come in through that reading room door, or the lobby level, which is where the new books are, but that's it. You're restricted. So
I don't really think an elevator is appropriate for that small space, and what it would have to displace to be put in. But the stairs are a problem for ADA accessibility.
they are.
And I keep trying to envision where the ramps would be, and what amount of height the ramps would be.
Right, and how long they would have to go.
Yes.
There's a whole
Yes.
science to that
Yeah.
within the building itself. So that's definitely one of our challenges in that building is accessibility, because we want to provide people with the most access possible. It's a lovely building. It's a lovely space to be in.
But can't you come at one level, you can come through the front way, there's a door, I think they ring a bell or something,
Mhm.
okay. And then if you want to go upstairs, I realize you have to go around the building, but there's already the back door that you come through for that level.
But then you couldn't go upstairs to the fiction section, and you couldn't go downstairs to the bathrooms.
Go before you come.
Or to the reading room.
I mean, a logical solution, yes.
Sorry. Aren't there, I don't know what the code is, but aren't there small elevators, like the pneumatic?
There are just people-specific elevators, and we have a dumbwaiter in there right now to help us move books between all of the levels, when we have those process, so that helps us. So there's opportunities for creativity, in the future in terms of looking at improving our accessibility, but it definitely is one of our challenges.
I'm not sure the patrons are gonna want to be on the dumbwaiter.
I don't think so.
I don't think that would be legal.
Yeah. No, but something a little bit bigger than that, maybe.
It seems like you got like and there is no solution to this, but multiple identity crises of what does it mean to be a library? Is it technological? Is it analog? What does it mean to be a historic building in Carmel? What does it mean to be a Carmelite? Like all of these things have competing and pulling elements, and the Venn diagram where it all meets in the middle is the Carmel Public Library.
Right.
True. But it's been there for 100 years.
I always think of the library as the room of requirement from Harry Potter. You go into that room and it's whatever you need it to be at that point in time.
cradle to grave, but it is kind of. So I raised 3 boys in the park branch, sitting in the aisles. One read the graphic novels and didn't like reading books. The other one had like to read the series of books. Each one of them had different experiences there. And the librarians were amazing, and they participated in story time. And it was my reprieve with the pine cone. I could sit in the back bench and not have them on me, and they could be entertained and everything. And then in 1999, I started a business, a manufacturing business before the internet was around. And librarians helped me hoist the Thomas registers up on the desk. And so I used the reference to figure out what companies I would use and this and that. And then, you know, as an adult, just love reading and everything. I mean, I just think it's part of a life, and the life in Carmel, you know. It's just like, it's a wonderful place to be.
By the way, the chairlift kinds of things are very expensive. Because we had to put one in for our outside stairs, and we gotta use one. But even the new ones are just, you know, way out of our budget, as you probably know.
Yes, as I say, we've had lots of people coming through over the years who are experts in what they do, experts in historic buildings, and they all have interesting ideas about that accessibility conundrum in particular. But it is a historic building, and that's important. It's important to our community. It's the one city service that's on Ocean Avenue. Nice. Now that we've talked about challenges that we'll be facing, what is everybody's hopes for the future of the library? Like the future library use, we're thinking 100 years out, where are we gonna be? What does the library look like? Does it look the same? And that's not a wrong answer at all. I mean, we've been pretty much the same for 100 years. Not much has changed in that library building when you look at, you know, besides paint and carpet and those types of things, moving some shelves around. But I can tell you the nonfiction collection has been in the place it's in since the 1950s at least. Yeah, it is cool. But what does the future of library look like? When we think about AI, technology, and all of these different things that are happening around us, what does the library look like into the future?
I think part of, when I think about that, is how you respect the legacy, but still continue to move forward. So it's the same, but different. And so when you walk in, you get that sense of place, and that sense of feeling. And because I think that the outdoor structures, when you walk by, you want something that's pulling you in, that's kind of, you know, piques someone's interest to walk in there. And right now, I know, I was thinking back when we were tourists to this area. We've been living here about 10 years now, and I never felt like pulled in there. And I love libraries, and for whatever reason, I just never made that right-hand turn as I'm walking down Ocean Avenue. So it's something that we continue to draw more people in, peruse and have fun.
Now, you know, wherever you are and you go into a library, that you will find local things, you know, things on local history. You'll find a place to, you know, sit, a computer to get your email on if you're traveling or whatever. Yeah, I think we're meeting a lot of needs, and we're certainly meeting a lot of needs.
I have no crystal ball for 100 years, but I will say that I think there probably have been many times in the last 50 years at least where people probably thought libraries were going to go away, right? We no longer need them because of new advances in technology, and that just has not turned out to be true. And I think that's very reassuring, and I think it's something to keep in mind as we look forward to the next 100 years. How do we continue to stay relevant? As you just said, that's very well said, but so stay the same but relevant, and I think we'll do that. I'm pretty confident. Books haven't gone away yet.
No,
It's pretty
they're not
amazing.
going to. People keep asking, keep saying, you know, oh, I'm so glad to see a book. I tried using a Kindle and I hated it.
I hope that the library will continue to be a place where people make connections with other people, because as technology becomes, you know, I don't know how it can be more pervasive, but as we use more technology, we're not connecting, you know, with a person, we're connecting with a screen. And hopefully the library continues to be a place where we make those connections.
And I think that when we started this
see the kids using the library, cause you know that's the next generation, like your kids, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a place you're not being sold something to.
Right.
No one's trying to sell you a book at the library. They just want to foster your creativity, your discovery, your journey. So I think wherever it ends up in 100 years, I think just as long as it's never trying to sell me something, the library is always going to be a reasonable place to go.
I kind of think of it as our legacy is what we know up until now and what we decide right now and what has worked for us. And trying to second guess the future is not a good idea, because your kids are gonna be here in 10 years deciding what they want the library to be. But I think, our job is to, pick out what we think was great about it and keep that going. And then let the people in the future, whatever their needs are gonna be, decide at that time if they need to change something.
Yeah, that's I agree. Libraries are always, I think, pretty good at adapting. I don't know if any of you read that book called The Library Book by Susan Orlean.
Excellent.
And she starts off the book by talking about the history of the Los Angeles Public Library. And I went back and reread it during the pandemic because she talks about in the 1920s there was a diphtheria outbreak. And so they were quarantining the books. And I'm like, we are doing this right. Everything old is new again. But they had all these different clubs going, and they, and this is close to the turn of the century. And so to your point, they're going to be our core values that we carry with us as a community and as a library. And programs will come and go and that type of thing, but as long as we hold on to those things, then our space will continue to be the space that it is now, which is a place for community connections and learning and fun. Any other thoughts for our future?
Certainly, if libraries were fundamentally started, so that you could have, it basically opened up reading to the masses rather than private collections.
Right.
That only people could read, now a community, or in this case, would buy the books. And so you didn't have to buy anything. You were just a member of the community, and that got you in, and you could read any number of books that you had through the year. If we move away from that in 100 years, what is a library at that point? So as you move forward in 100 years, do you need to make sure you keep with your roots of it's a community-based way to expand knowledge and education? And if you believe that, how does that impact your movement in for the next 100 years? That would be, there is no answer to that tonight, but yes.
There's just a hope.
I think it's the same things that we enjoy, then I think we have a responsibility to keep them available for the future, right? So we've enjoyed the free access. I mean, I don't buy consumer reports, I go look it up, right? So, we've enjoyed that access, and so it's our job to not spoil that for the next.
And that's where the community is great, because then when the library, if the library ever faces challenges that would impact our ability to provide the services as they are, the core services we've agreed on, the voices of the community will help keep that momentum going and help to support library operations into the future.
Oh.
I was just gonna ask, are there volunteers at the library other than the Friends?
Yes, there are. So actually, the Friends just focus on book sales, but we do have volunteers who work and do shelving and help us with projects at the Harrison Library, and then we also have a couple of volunteers that work in the local history department over at the Park Branch.
Would that help with the staffing?
Potentially, in some areas, I'll tell you, it does help in the local history department with keeping collections and getting them digitized and all of those things. But with some of those other things, we can run into issue with union. If we have volunteers that are creeping into staff duties types of things. So right now, our focus is just shelving
philosophically, what is that gift?
Well, I've actually argued the reverse, that it was, the library is a gift to, or it is something that is being lent to us.
Right.
And that we return to the next generation, and it is our space right now, it's a public good. And our responsibility to that is to keep it in its same form and return it as we found it, just a public good for access.
Any other thoughts that anybody has, knowing those kinds of things we're gonna be working on into the future, strategic planning and building improvements and program ideas?
I like our building as it is, I hope we don't have to do
Yes.
anything to it. I mean, how many libraries have a fireplace? But I did recently attend something up in Carmel Valley at their library, and they had a really lovely way to bring in a local author and art and things, and there were people in some of those gatherings who had never set foot in the library before. So maybe, more of that. I know the big splashy, the foundation, big name speakers.
Yeah.
But there just seems like such a wealth of local people who'd be willing to talk on whatever their specialty is, that I think that would be really lovely to draw other people in. But that might, that's evening hours, that's, afternoon hours or something, so.
Yes.
I don't know how manageable that would be.
We
It
do
would
have
be-
community nights, with the foundation puts on community nights.
Mhm.
Some of them are local, some of them, travel from outside the area to
Yeah.
speak about history or books that they wrote or,
Right.
things like that. But those are free.
Yeah, I've seen those, but I don't know, maybe my impression up to now is just they've been big splashy ones, as opposed to kind of more calm, small ones, local.
We're doing
Right,
that now.
which we are.
We do
we are-
mix.
Yeah, we've been.
We really do a mix
Yeah.
between the library and the foundation.
Uh-huh.
Bringing in we have, like you said, a lot of really well-known authors,
Right.
like Meredith Mays out in the valley, and Jane Smiley is out in the valley, and so we do try to bring locals as well.
Right.
We do.
Well, I'm also thinking, like, I work with somebody in that, I'm a hospice volunteer and do things like that, and I work with somebody who's kind of talking about that kind of stuff, and those are more, I don't know, there's probably other forums, the foundation, the Carmel Foundation or whatever that also does that, but just as somebody who has an expertise, maybe they're not an author, I don't know,
Yeah,
like
send
description
us-
of your art,
Yeah.
the art collection or something, and just say, small group, local, happening, because I think that might bring some people in who maybe don't normally set foot in the library.
So you're thinking about doing smaller things inside the library?
Inside the library,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
We did that in the library where I was up north, and that worked out really well, because certain people were attracted by the topic or the program,
Right.
and then they stayed to, I can read the Wall Street Journal here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have been, please send me the topic or hand it off to one of the librarians, because we have been exploring smaller types of programs in the gathering place itself. So we did Medicare benefits.
Yeah.
We've had Lisa Crawford Watson in from the Carmel Pinecone to teach on writing memoirs
Yes, yes.
in a small group setting. I'm sure I'm missing other things.
We're having one coming up, nature journaling.
Well, you've also had that concert series too.
Right, and we have had the concert series on Thursdays, or not every Thursday, but
And we have,
different musicians, and that's just kind of crowdsourced. We have people coming in going, oh, hey, I just heard this band somewhere, or I heard this musician, or do you know my friend? It's very much, all of those programs are very much organic, like we're listening, paying attention ourselves.
But it sounds like we need to advertise more.
We need to advertise more.
More so that people.
Well, and maybe just have more of a menu. I don't know if that sounds weird, because certain things that are attractive to some people aren't attractive to other people.
Yeah.
Maybe a variety and just see what sticks.
we also have a fireside chat that we do, probably 2 or 3 times within the year,
Uh-huh.
and that takes place in the library.
Right.
Fireside.
But I understand it's a messaging is always the challenge. How do we get the message out to the broadest number of people without, and in competition with all of the other things and noise that we hear, on our screens, on our devices, and stand out, without selling at people. Lots of different balances to find.
Well,
But it's-
even today, this was well advertised in the Pinecone and so forth, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 people after
that some more than we have in our trustee meetings.
This is true. This is true.
Regarding the advertising,
Yes.
Pinecone, our library newsletter, the city administrator's Friday letter, library's website, city's website, posters all over town in the post office, here out front of City Hall, out front of both libraries.
Through the foundation, on
Foundation, yes.
RML. It's like- But I have to say, I did look at last Friday, I look every Friday at the Friday newsletter, and there were like one thing after another.
There's a lot
I mean, I was,
happening.
because I was looking for hours, I was like, where's hours? And it was buried, like amongst like, 10 other workshops or
Yeah.
whatever, but,
There's
so
a lot
it's,
happening.
it is, it's a challenge that way.
I don't know what it's like at the Harrison, but at the Children's Library, you guys keep a monthly calendar, and that's really helpful. And I
Yeah.
take it and I
The
put it on
physical
the
copy,
fridge.
yeah, exactly.
And kind of like you were saying about the survey, perhaps that could be something that's offered. with
Monthly
text-
survey or
yeah,
monthly calendar.
Monthly calendar
for
at
adult
Harrison.
programs as well.
And it could be just tucked in a book when they're checking it out. Because I feel like this is a community that likes tangible things, and we would put them on our fridge.
Mhm.
Their children aren't putting their artwork on the fridge, and it's useful. If it's important to you, I like to keep it top of mind. That marketing concept of you have to see something 3 times before you buy in, and that could be the same for, exactly, for an event. So if you have it
Front and center. On paper.
on paper.
Any other thoughts? Anybody? No? Frank, you been quiet back here?
Yeah. No, I like the library, all right, I'm not a big library person, but I enjoy the library. She just returned my last book about 10 days ago. Got out of the library, I enjoy it. I like it because it's not modern, I've been to Europe a couple times, I've been into some older libraries, and they're massive and stunning, but this one's kind of nice, cute and charming. And if you ruin that, I'll hate you.
Oh, no.
I think you need a bigger chair for me by the fire.
Bigger chair by the fire.
That would be the only other suggestion. Or a mocha machine.
Good place to go when it rains.
Yeah, so put
Right,
a
library, wherever you're
Put a
traveling.
Keurig right there by the fireplace.
You allow drinks in the library, huh?
We do, I relax the rules on food. If you
I
can
was
take your book home and
surprised.
sit in bed and read and eat a bar of chocolate, which is what I do, why can't you do the same thing in the library? And kids are hungry after school.
It's true.
They're starving, they need constant snacks and sandwiches, so.
There were a
yes.
couple of ladies with their cups of coffee right there by the
Right,
fireplace.
you wanna read into the paper with a coffee?
That is,
Yeah, very.
May I read a comment from a River family?
Mhm.
They sent it in just because they couldn't come in, like so many of us. They say, the events at the Children's Library are a source of quality fun for my entire family. We'd love to see more. And if the library could be open on the weekend or Saturday morning, that'd be beautiful. So
Yeah,
just
echoes everything that you said.
Trying.
Yeah.
I have a programming idea for the
Oh,
children's library.
please.
Ooh.
And I don't know if this is even possible or how it works, but I remember going to the library when I was younger and learning about the Dewey Decimal System.
Mm-hmm.
Could you ever put on a workshop to teach the kids?
We can, and actually that is happening in a different way, which is through class visits. So when the classes, whether it's River School or Stevenson, when they come, they schedule a field trip with Miss Leanne. They go over how to use the library and Dewey Decimal System. But we could do something independently.
Like a
of that
public
for
one.
kids everywhere.
One.
Yeah. And that's always at the 3rd grade level if they start the.
No, it's whatever class age. I've been, they started as young as kindergarten. With classes
Great.
coming in, they'll do a story time, but also here's how to find things in the library and make your way through. So that's a great idea.
I think my kids, especially Jocko, would find that fascinating. Yeah, at that age.
Yeah, well, it's like a secret code.
Exactly.
On the Saturday, open Saturday, we've been pushing with council members to be open on Saturday. We need support from the community to
Yeah.
email the council members, the mayor, and let them know you want Saturday hours.
several council members, explain to them. But when they get the emails, then they know it's election year.
Yeah.
They're gonna vote for, that's our power. Our power is let them know we want it. I mean,
Particularly if you live in the town.
you live in the town, yes.
Yeah.
You can vote in town, let them know, and you want Saturday hours. I've talked to 3 of them already, and it's needed, but need support. I can't do it myself. They need people that are gonna vote, is to say, I need Saturday hours.
Is the idea, what, on the kids' side, are the Saturday hours mostly morning or afternoon or the whole day?
I think that families would enjoy.
Yeah, similar hours to what already exists, but.
But if it was to be one side, I think it's morning.
Right, yeah. I
Like
mean,
a 10 to 2 or.
Yeah. I'd take 10 to 2. I'll take you off.
My goal is 10 to 6.
Thank you, exactly.
Love it. It's contingent on more part-time staff, that's what
Yeah.
we're waiting for, is more part-time staff,
Yeah.
so.
Because the kids nap in the afternoon, right?
Depending
Thankfully, we're
on-
out of
yeah,
that prison,
yeah.
but.
Yeah.
We see the ebb and flow in that department, it's like, oh, it's lunchtime and nap time.
Yep.
And then
Different
everybody
ages,
comes in
different
after nap
stages.
time.
And then on the adult side, because I think of Saturdays as morning is get your errands done, go to the library, whatever, and then afternoon is you're off hiking in the hills or something. How does it, what about on the adult side?
I would keep it 10 to 6. We have different people that do their schedule differently, especially during high season, people wanna get in and out because parking becomes a nightmare when it's busy in town, but when it's winter, people want to be by the cozy fireplace when it's cold and rainy and for as long as possible. So.
Well, it's winter in the summer.
I should have said, yeah, during the fog or during the sun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess some places do winter and summer hours, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go that far, but yeah, we have, I mean, different occasions. We did the surveys before the pandemic, before we kind of standardized our hours 10 to 6. And they were all over the board. I would like you to be open in the middle of the night. Can you open at 6 a.m.? I want to get my, I go to the post office at this time, so we can't necessarily meet all of those needs, but we try.
About how many people come in a day?
A day? Not a day. I can tell you the month,
Okay.
probably over 1,000, between 800 and 1,500 people in and out of that building. We see, especially, during the high season, for tourist traffic, but we have pretty high numbers too during the off season. Pretty good use, and we have, there's library users, so for regular users, you come in multiple times during the month. We have what we call unique users, so how many people came in at least one time a month? So you just be counted once, you would just be counted once even if you came in multiple times. And the average monthly is, close to 900 people coming in, just to the Harrison. I didn't even run the statistics for the kids department, just to come in and check out books. So that's, that's solid,
Take a lot.
solid foot traffic. Our library is very well used compared to other libraries.
That's why we want to start.
Right. Well, I don't have any other questions for all. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Thank you all for being here, for sharing. Sharing what you think about the library. This has given me lots of good food for thought, lots to bring back to share with our staff, lots to think about as we move into the future. And I would encourage you, email me, let the staff know what you're thinking. If you've got a program idea, we have the reference Gmail account, email things there. If you've got an idea, or if you're at another library, another community, and you're like, this is cool, I take pictures of this place, other library stuff all the time, and show the staff. So if you think it's a good idea that would fit well with what we're doing, or something we're not doing, please share it with us as we move forward.
So can I just ask, who's on the foundation and who's this library staff? Or what are?
So I'm library staffing actually, and Rachel back there taking notes is our head of reference. And then on this side, we have our foundation, some of our foundation board members. So Alex is the executive director, Marcy is the current president, Ken is incoming treasurer, and,
Bill.
Bill. I was like, you're not secretary. And and Bill is on the board as well. And then John Krischer here is our library board of trustees president. Phil Pardue is on the library board of trustees as well. Susan Murphy is a board of trustees member. She's vice president. Mary Jo is our treasurer, and Mary Claire is new income trustee.
Does that help?
That's all of you.
Well, can you explain the difference between trustees and the?
Yeah, and so the Carmel Public Library Foundation formed to support library operations when funding was being cut. And that was in 1989. The Board of Trustees, actually I think predates, was formed in 1928 with the building of the Harrison Library. And they are appointed by the City Council. So they're a governing body for the library. We have a check register that's approved monthly. Policies are adopted by the Board of Trustees. They have oversight of our library facilities, approve any changes to hours. I'm missing any responsibilities?
Budget.
How could I forget? I was just doing budget after an hour meeting about budget yesterday. Yes, budget.
Yes.
But the budget for running, for the staff is paid by the city.
It is.
City.
Then the operations and books and resources are paid by the foundation.
Mhm.
So, wow, okay.
Yeah, we operate just a little bit differently than some of the other city departments, and we're very fortunate to have the support that we do for our operating budget. And we're lucky, to have two great groups supporting the library as an institution, and people who are so passionate about library services and ensuring that they're meeting community needs and for the best they can possibly do. That's it. Meeting adjourned. Oh my God.
The people that came in late, hang on, they give you a ride.
That's where we came.